Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. So after a 12-month postponement of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, the event finally underway following a well-choreographed display of fireworks, dancing and music at the opening ceremony at the Olympic Stadium earlier on Friday. Four-time major champion and Japanese representative Naomi Osaka served as the final Olympic torchbearer and had the honor of lighting the Olympic cauldron in front of only 950 spectators due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Osaka later described the moment as the greatest athletic achievement and honor she will ever have in life. Now, the theme, unity and strength, was at the forefront of proceedings. And for the first time in Olympic history, those who died during Olympic competition were acknowledged, specifically the members of the Israeli Olympic delegation of the 1972 Munich Games. Another first for the Olympics at the opening ceremony saw for each nation having two flag bearers, a man and a woman, finding creative ways, of course, to share one flagpole. A few keen ears noticed the music used during the parade was an orchestral medley of songs from iconic Japanese video games. Now, the performances throughout the ceremony left nothing to be desired, with the organizers using live and pre-recorded elements to tell a story of resilience and growth. It was also interesting to see three performers dressed in blue and white suits, utilizing hand puppetry to recreate the 50 Olympic sport pictograms live. Using only a few minutes, the three performers, they acted out all the 50 pictograms of the 33 Olympic sports that will take place over the next 2 weeks. And in an outstanding feat of technology, more than 1,800 drones took the Tokyo skies, creating the Tokyo 2020 emblem before morphing into a revolving globe. Now, the drone display happened as John Lennon's 1971 hit song Imagine was played. The drones from the Intel has put on memorable shows around the world, including the 2019 Super Bowl halftime show. And an opening ceremony, Mariah, that was very, very different today. Very different. Of course, we said only 950 spectators in the stands, of course, because spectators aren't allowed, and the COVID-19 pandemic has scuppered, the chances of seeing hundreds of thousands, or at least 100,000 fans, as we would normally see at these Olympic Games. But I thought it was a very memorable occasion and very poignant when we looked at, even the moment silence for those who have passed away at the Olympic Games, and the fact that it's having in the time of the pandemic. Just sent this kind of sobering message that yes, we are all enjoying what we are about to witness, the magic of the Olympic Games, but there is life beyond that, and the camaraderie and the sort of friendship and fellowship that one engenders at these Olympic Games will not be lost on anyone this time.
Definitely, Lance. And I feel as if I were to describe what I saw this morning in one word, I would say it was extremely meaningful, because everything that was done this morning was really planned out and it was executed to a T. I felt as if I was in history class. I got a historical lesson about so many different things that have happened in the past, and they linked it to the present situation, the current situation. Even having Naomi Osaka light the torch was something that came as a surprise. And of course, we all know, she's been in the news currently. So again, something very, very meaningful that they were trying to purport, and they executed it extremely well. The show went on for some time. I think approximately 3 hours it was, Lance?
Yes.
3 hours. And everything, it's as if it kept your attention, because everything fitted where it had to go very well. Nothing was out of sync. And I just felt as if, Japan is a country that has a lot of traditions, rituals, everything has so much meaning. And the way that they were able to incorporate it into today's presentation, it was very, very seamless. And, it just sets the stage for what we expect to be a very different Olympics, but a very meaningful one that we will talk about in years to come, that would be so different from what everybody else has been accustomed to.
Yeah, and there's Dara Adizale, the Bermudian, who actually competed in rowing on Thursday, being a part of the opening ceremony here. Yeah. We just saw him there, and one of the Bermudians there involved, and there was actually a world record on the day before the Olympic ceremony. So we keep reminding our viewers that although the opening ceremony officially starts the games, there is competition in several other sports that would have been happening on Wednesday and Thursday before. And the South Korean An San broke the women's Olympic archery record with a score of 680 in qualifying. So even before the Olympic Games opening ceremony, there's already a world record in archery.
And I think based on what we've seen, and I'm talking about all the trials and all the qualifications to get to this point. This Olympics, there will be a lot of records. I get the sense that athletes are going to really be focused and try to push that extra mile to ensure that, the fans who won't be there physically will get a show. And of course, the broadcast companies, based on what we saw this morning, we're not going to be missing a minute of the action. And Lance, also the medals is something I wanted to talk about, because I said, if I had to sum up this morning, I would call it meaningful, right?
Yes.
Even the medals, they're being created from recycled electronics. And that in itself has a massive meaning, the importance of the environment and all these different things. And I just have to say, it was total class. It was a class production. You are a part of the Olympic production for SportsMax. George is also on. I saw Leighton Levy. Y'all are part of history as well. You are going to be, y'all are creating history right now by just being a part of the broadcast.
Yeah.
And that's something very, very big and amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned about the medals just now, and there is a very stark reality that will hit us over the next couple of weeks, because we expect that there will be more COVID-19 positive tests. We hope that, teams are not badly affected by it, but I hardly think the games will continue over the next 2.5 weeks without any more positive tests. So while we're looking at the medal count, I'm pretty sure that the headlines will also have that side story about the COVID-19 count as well, which is an unfortunate side of things. But because of the magic of the Olympic Games and the quality of the organization of the Olympic Games, I do expect the quality of performances, the intensity of the performances, the diligence and efforts coming from the athletes will outstrip any of the negatives that will be happening at the same time.
Well, speaking about that, actually last night, Japan recorded a very high number of COVID-19 cases. So when I read the headlines this morning, of course, they were contrasting and, putting it side by side. We're looking forward to this Olympics, which represents hope. It represents the coming together.
Yes.
Qualities like togetherness and all these different things, but they're also juxtaposing it with the fact that we have recorded our highest number of COVID-19 cases. So it's something that we'll have to monitor very closely. But based on what I saw this morning, Lance, I'm just looking forward to see what else is in store for us.
Yeah, and we were discussing on our preview this morning the prospects for Caribbean success at these games. And I was making the point that for the last 3 successive Olympic Games, CARICOM nations have won a total of, 15 in Beijing, 18 in London, and 15 in Rio. So, 15, 18, 15, that's been the trend in the past 3 Olympic Games, and I do suspect that coming here in Tokyo, the numbers will be in the same ballpark. I'm not sure if we'll get to 20, but I hardly see the Caribbean winning fewer than 15 medals in these Olympic Games, and I'm pretty certain that there will be some gold medals in there as well.
Yeah.
My concern is the lopsided nature of the CARICOM medals, because they've been predominantly coming in track and field, Mariah, and the last time we had a non-track and field medal at the Olympic Games was George Bovell from Trinidad and Tobago, 2004 in swimming. And I would really love to see some other athlete outside of track and field on the medal podium here for the Caribbean in Tokyo.
It's so funny that you're saying that, because earlier today I interviewed the Barbadian Olympian Obadele Thompson, and we were having a similar conversation, Lance. We were talking about, how Jamaica dominates at the Tokyo Olympics. Of course, Trinidad we would consider a powerhouse as compared to the rest of the other Caribbean countries. And I was asking him to pinpoint reasons as to why that has happened, because for what we know is that he has been the only Olympian for Barbados since it became an independent country. And I was asking him like, you know, what happens in his country that prevents the rest of athletes from, you know, stepping up, because they have him to look at as an example of you can do it, your fellow countrymen did it and whatnot. But, you know, we couldn't really pinpoint what is the main reason. It's not black and white as we wish it would have been.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Brathwaite, a sprint hurdler from Barbados, actually won the World Championship back in 1999, but there have been no medals at the Olympic Games for Barbados since Obadele's bronze medal at the Sydney Olympic Games. And as you try to analyze where the weaknesses may be in other sports, great to have Anil Roberts as part of our expert resource team that will be a part of our project, because Anil had coached two outstanding young swimmers from the Caribbean back in the 90s, Leah Martindale from Barbados and Siobhan Cropper from Trinidad and Tobago, who both achieved world levels, and Martindale actually qualified for the freestyle 50-meter final. I think it was, she competed in the 50-meter and the 100 freestyle, and she finished 5th. But for her, as a Barbadian and as a black girl, this is before the Alia Atkinson and the Janelle Atkinson rise. It was a tremendous feat for her to get to the final. In Atlanta it was. Siobhan Cropper didn't actually make a final, but she had contested world championship finals and so on. So Anil understands sport overall, and he has been an outstanding swimming coach. And for Caribbean-based swimmers to reach that level of competition, it's pretty much unheard of, Mariah, because every single one of our Caribbean swimmers who have reached world standards have been based overseas. And Alia Atkinson will explain that if she didn't go to Florida when she was in her early teens to, you know, get this sort of constant training and competition,
the facilities and everything,
and the facilities, she would not have achieved what she has achieved up to this point. She's a world record holder and world champion short course as well. But as I said, the feat that Anil Roberts had achieved by preparing two Caribbean-based swimmers in the mid-1990s to world levels is something to behold. And maybe during our coverage of the Olympic Games, Anil will use his expertise to, you know, give an inside story as to exactly how he did it. Because as I said, it's not something that's done. Swimmers who want to achieve world standards tend to leave the Caribbean. George Bovell eventually went overseas and, you know, completed his development. But it was Anil who had coached him earlier on during his teens while he was in Trinidad and Tobago, and his brother Nicholas Bovell, both outstanding at the Carifta Swimming Championships, CC Can and so on. But there's a lot of potential for us, I think, in swimming. But there are a lot of areas that we've got to tackle to ensure that we get our athletes to fulfill their full potential.
Definitely. And what I know is, you know, from time to time, the countries and the people in charge of these bodies need to really do some introspection, because it's so easy to cheer on somebody when they do well. It's so easy when an athlete medals to claim them, to say that they belong to a country. But, you know, I feel like a lot of government, they need to put their hands up and say, maybe we messed up and we need to put some more effort and ensure that our athletes don't really leave the country and go somewhere else looking for that sort of assistance.
Yeah, and before we break, there's a story that is we're tracking at the moment about the Jamaican long jumper Kieran McLeod, who was reported to have returned a positive COVID-19 test, putting his place in the Tokyo team in jeopardy. But he is since testing negative, we understand, and apparently he has to do another test. But at the moment, that story is in limbo. Kieran McLeod, the Jamaican long jumper, at the moment being threatened by COVID-19 and possible no-show at the Tokyo Olympic Games. But I'm sure sometime over the weekend we'll get the final story on that. We still have a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone. Back after this.